Hey everybody, and welcome to the intersection of sports and marketing. I'm Cristiano, and this is OUTOFSCOPE, episode number 9, where we talk about professional cycling, the Tour de France, and sponsorships. I spoke with former professional cyclist, Tour de France rider, and professional cycling announcer Frankie Andreu, and he gave me some fantastic insights into sponsoring professional cycling teams. All you marketers out there need to listen to this.
Sports marketing expert Cristiano.
Cristiano.
Marketers and advertisers and brands always have to keep in mind, you have to play to the state of your audience. Endurance sports athletes are absolutely fanatics.
Having a Facebook page doesn't get you any business, but doing it right can be quite effective.
All right, this episode number 9 is all about cycling. You can see I'm wearing our new team kit. If you didn't know, Bold Worldwide sponsors an amateur racing team here in New York City. We've got 10 guys. They're all really awesome, super fast. I am moderately fast, trying to get faster. Co-sponsoring it with our client Endurance Works. So a little shout out to them as well. Endurance Works, Bold Racing Team. We got the new hats, the new kits, all sorts of other goodies. We were here late last night trying all the stuff on. It was really exciting. Anyway, this is a perfect transition into what we're going to talk about today. I was able to talk with former professional cyclist Frankie Andreu, and we got really in depth about how sponsorships work at the Tour de France, as well as just general professional cycling teams, and a lot of really great information and info about what to look out for, what's coming up, and maybe even a cycling tip. Well, Frankie, thanks, man, for coming on. I'm really glad to have you on the show. Thanks for being here with me.
No, my pleasure. Look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the reason I have you on the show is to kind of get a interesting and unique perspective as somebody who was a former pro cyclist racing the Tour de France and also a race director of a pro team, and now somebody that is an announcer and commentator on pro cycling. I'm kind of interested in your thoughts on how the sponsorship works and how that affects both sides, from the race director side and also being on a team having sponsors.
Well, when you're a rider on the team, you're a walking billboard. I mean, you're covered in logos, and everything you do is kind of a little bit under a microscope, and so all of your actions obviously reflect on that sponsor, and so you become very well aware of that. You have media training to make sure that you're able to cover the right topics and make sure that you represent the brand correctly. And that's pretty much, as a cyclist, that's pretty much all you have to worry about. And then, obviously racing your bike well and getting good results and doing well, like at the biggest bike race in the world at the Tour de France. As a director, there's a lot more involved with making sure that the riders are all compliant with all the sponsors that we have, meaning wearing the right clothing, using the right equipment, also making sure the social media is working correctly with promoting the sponsors, and then dealing with the sponsors, obviously having an inline communication with them of what they're looking for, what they would like, also communicating with them some of the things that you're able to do for them, and some of the things that some sponsors have really big ideas, and in like a bike race like the Tour de France, it's just not possible to do. So you have to be clear and pretty much and concise with letting them know how it can work on both sides, so expectations are met on both sides.
Right. And how much control do some of the sponsors have over what the riders can say, do, wear, the type of gear that they're riding on? What kind of control do they have over that?
Well, as a sponsor to a cycling team, you have a lot of control. You're giving money, you're giving product to outfit a specific cycling team, and for that, the team agrees that they will exclusively use your products, and so it's watched very closely by the sponsors, but it's also watched very closely by the teams, by the director, to make sure that everybody is compliant in what they're using. From shoes to socks to the gloves, the clothing, the helmets, glasses. All of that, even the nutritional products. So all of that is looked at, because when the guys are racing and it's on television, all that is seen by the world. And so the sponsors pay for that, and we make sure to be able to deliver on those promises.
And from a sponsorship perspective, obviously some of the bike, the frame manufacturers, the wheel manufacturers, group sets, how much of that comes from a dollar monetary financial investment to the team, and how much of it is in kind, where the riders are given free gear, or is it a balance of both?
It's kind of a balance of both. As a team, the sponsors agree to sponsor a team, and so that product or the cash would go to the team, and then the team would distribute it to the riders. Sometimes it's just product, and sometimes there's a cash involvement with it. And so for every team, that's different depending on their needs. Obviously, every team would like to have a lot of cash for all the different products, but it doesn't always work out that way. So a lot of it depends on needs. Also depends on how big a team we're talking with too. Right. If it's at the World Tour level, which is at the highest level, riders that ride the Tour de France, the Tour of Italy, all the World Cups in Europe, those demands are higher than the professional scene that's here in the U.S. The demands and the costs associated with sponsorship to a local domestic team is a lot less compared to what would be needed in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have some friends that are on the Champsys Pro team, the domestic team here in the States, and it's very interesting kind of seeing how that works out for them. But then, like you're saying, on the World Tour level, the Tour de France level, there's a lot more involvement, there's a lot bigger expenses. And there's also a deviation, it seems, in, depending on the scale of the sponsorship for different teams. Some teams have a lot larger sponsors and have a lot more money to play with than other teams. Does that affect how both sponsorships work and how the team functions based on the scale of sponsorships that they have?
A little, you're exactly right. And some teams will have a lot of sponsors, and so they'll have a lot of logos all over their jerseys, all over their cars. And some just might have one major sponsor, where then that brand visibility and that brand awareness has a bigger impact. If it's just one brand compared to a two or three brands. As for the control of one big sponsor compared to a bunch of little sponsors, the teams and the directors, they work hard to be able to meet those demands, and they work hard to meet whatever the demands are, even if it's one big sponsor or a lot of multiple sponsors. And sometimes with smaller teams, the multiple sponsors are needed to be able to bring in enough budget to be able to compete at that highest level. So ultimately, the goal for those bigger teams is to compete at that highest level, because that's the most recognition, that's where the most television is. Then you get into the Tour de France, the Giro d'Italia, the other big races that are over there. And so the return on investment, I think, is, I think it's the same on both sides.
Very interesting. And, what do you see the sponsors getting out of it? Obviously, there's a lot of brand awareness. It's obviously, cycling is a very tight-knit community. What do the sponsors get out of it, other than putting a logo and getting some brand awareness? What are they getting? Because it obviously costs a lot of money to do so.
It does cost, and a lot of it is mainly the brand awareness, the name recognition, the visibility. I mean, the Tour de France is seen in 190 countries. I mean, so that's worldwide. And now a lot of the sponsors are starting to do more specific video content, specific to a team, specific to a riders, or they're leveraging it through social media and having contests with having the fans interact with the team, or be able to pick out like who they think is going to win that day or that stage, or even specific to that team, like the order of finishers on that team. And so they have to go to that local team's website and pick out the specific riders or teams, or the specific riders on that team. And so it's kind of a different contest and different ways of interacting it. And then like also a sponsor, for example, I'll say Volkswagen, from sponsoring the USA Cycling National Championships. They take our car and we go do a course preview, driving around the course. And you're talking about what the riders are going to like kind of what they're going to encounter on the race course, what's going to happen a little bit, also talk a little bit about the car. And so this is a very targeted kind of 1 minute, 2 minute commercial that's very specific to the brand, and then they can use it for whatever they want to use it.
That's really interesting, and I like that example. The Volkswagen example is fantastic, because I've seen some brands like Volkswagen where they seem to be leveraging the sponsorship outside of just putting logos on different teams, and doing something where they're talking about their sponsorship for the teams outside of just the sponsorship to kind of leverage that. Do you think that a sponsor, any size sponsor, it benefits them more to not just place a logo on a team, but to use that and interact with the team and use it on social media and use it in other mediums and kind of announce that they're a part of the cycling community outside of just putting their logos on. Do you think that that's more effective?
Well, it's definitely more effective and I think beneficial. And I think, having the logos and having that brand there is important, but leveraging it outside of the cycling team, I think, is just important. Like, as I mentioned with Volkswagen, the other one that's starting to do that a little bit, kind of like, for example, at the Tour de France, with the travel industry. If you're an airline or in the entertainment industry or a hotel, there's a lot that all these people that come to visit the tour, there's so much stuff to be seen. So they have to stay someplace, they have to eat someplace, they have to get there. And so there's a lot of ways of doing social media, but also doing, again, a lot of, the video is just, it's taken over the internet where everything is on video now. So there's a lot of these little compact little video segments that a lot of people in the travel industry or they're starting to do, so that they can target those specific brands and talk about that specific area or that specific food and what's so great about it. And then they can take that kind of little commercial and use it wherever they want and spread it throughout. The other part that's doing that also is, which is changing in cycling, are the onboard cameras.
Right.
So now the onboard cameras, which is fantastic, they put a camera on the bike in the race. You really get up close and personal and see the action, and it's very different than what you see from the television cameras. And with that, then you're advertising, again, specifically that brand or that team, and then you're also having specifically that brand of camera that's filming it, and if you get a sponsor for it, there's another brand on there. So they use that, and you get a lot of hits with that because everybody loves seeing the in-camera action. And so that's brand new. That's only come out this year because it's only been allowed from the UCI. Another innovative way is GPS, tracking the riders where they are in the races and following that. Sponsors will tag onto that and be able to have, sponsoring that kind of segment for GPS tracking. And so a lot of different changes that are allowing, instead of just sponsoring an event and having a banner just sitting up on a barrier and then you just happen to see it or you might not see it, they're definitely becoming more interactive and kind of proactive in trying to promote their brand and leveraging it out through social media and into the marketing world.
Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, the onboard cameras have been awesome. I saw a bunch of stuff from TOC, some of the finishing sprints and lead outs, and it's kind of hair-raising almost.
It's insane, yes, exactly.
It really is. To be inside the group, the peloton at those final moments, man, screaming around those corners is unbelievable. I think it's really fantastic. Do you have the riders been receptive to this more interactive piece from the sponsors? Because if you go, a decade or two back, it was just, you're just putting the logo on, but now they're getting involved in social media and these videos, etc. Are they receptive to it? Are they enjoying it, or is it more work for them?
No, they're very receptive to it because it's also increasing their brand. It's increasing their name and making them more known throughout the cycling world. And then that translates, because their name is associated with that team, so then that team's name is being associated with being spread out throughout that. So for them, they just have the camera on the bike. They do their own thing. They race. When they're done, they don't have to worry about editing it and doing all that. That goes to somebody else that has to do it. So very receptive. And the same thing with social media. There are certain cyclists that have thousands and thousands of followers, in the hundreds of thousands of followers. And it's about increasing their name and their brand recognition, which can lead to other stuff afterward when they're when they retire and they're done riding. And so all of that is about it's promoting the team that they're riding for now, but it's also about promoting themselves. And most riders, they're all in when it comes about promoting themselves.
Yeah, well, fantastic. And anything that you see to keep an eye out for in the for the rest of the season, the Tour de France or any of the rest of the races?
Well, I mean, at the Tour, it's a big opportunity for a lot of brands and manufacturers. They come out with new product, different innovations, things that we haven't seen before. And it can be from bike equipment, super lightweight stuff, to nutrition, to the electric cars. I think that's where things are going to start changing. Cycling it's a very it's an active sport. It's an active lifestyle. It's also, a lot of people do it to help the environment. It's green. I think the next step is going to be with the electric cars. Is once the range gets a little bit better and charging stations are a little bit more available, I could definitely see that kind of turning over and changing. But new products are always coming out at the Tour, and it's interesting to see kind of the innovation that's there. And usually in July at the tours where they present this stuff because it's worldwide, you know, it's worldwide attention.
Everybody's paying attention. Yeah, I'll be excited. Everybody. I'll be excited to see what pops up and what we start to hear about. My last question, completely selfish question, is what would be your best training or racing tip to a mediocre Cat 3 amateur cyclist?
Well, there's a saying, rest your way to fitness. And the most important part of training or racing is rest. And a lot of people overlook that, and that's in any sport. Because you can very quickly run yourself into the ground. And you can't build fitness and you can't build muscle unless you get the proper amount of rest. And so the other advice is that each time, if you're a cyclist and you're going to go ride, have an objective of what you're trying to accomplish that day. Don't just go out and ride for 2 hours and repeat that every time riding 2 hours. Make it a little bit specific. Work on power, work on sprinting, work on accelerations, work on climbing, spinning. You know, take a day, be specific with that, accomplish that day. The next day, do something different, and then you'll have a ton of improvements in your power and your endurance instead of just becoming a good 2-hour bike rider without getting any faster.
Awesome. Specialization is key. And I like the rest comment, except I think I get a little too much of it, which has the opposite effect. Frankie, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate talking with you, and best of luck. We'll keep an eye out for all of your awesome commentations on the upcoming races, and yeah, best wishes.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, there you have it. Frankie Andreu, awesome guy, even better bike racer, great human being. Really, really thank you for coming on the show. Just some fantastic information I don't think anybody's really talked about in that kind of depth. So with that, I'm going to get into my marketing tip of the day. Whether you're sponsoring a Pro Tour cycling team, whether you're sponsoring an NBA player, whether you're sponsoring a running event, whatever it might be that your brand or your company is sponsoring, you have to leverage the sponsorship outside of just putting your logo on a team kit or on a player or having them say that they are sponsored by you. And like Frankie said, what we've seen and what's really getting big is having content that involves the people that you're sponsoring, the teams, talking about it, taking it offline, using social media to leverage with the players, the racers, whoever they are, and also having this content that you can push out and announce to people outside of that sport to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're involved with this professional team. We're involved with these cyclists. We're involved with this NBA player. Take a look, because it creates a lot more depth, and it stands out from a marketing perspective because it's fun, it's light, and it lets people know not only are you doing this, but if they're part of that community, they're saying, oh, wow, cool, I'm into cycling, Bold's into cycling, or, you know, Audi's into cycling. Oh, that's really kind of cool. Now you're creating a deeper connection with that brand, and it's really important to do so. So you can spend a lot of money and put your logo on someone, a team, or a car, or a racer, which is great and it has its value, but you can expand that value so far beyond just having the brand awareness by now leveraging that and telling people about your sponsorship outside of the sport. So that's my tip of the day. Thank you so much for watching. Episode 9 was great. Thank you, Frankie Andreu, for coming on and giving us such fantastic information. I look forward to doing more of these. I'm going to give you the tip of the cycling cap today. And thanks again. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and let me know what you like and let me know what you don't like, because we're going to continue to improve the show. That was it.